because small companies don't have like many seniors or juniors that you can work with.
Right.
There's no way for you to like, oh, I only do this thing and I don't do other things. You actually need to do everything. As the company gets larger, you need to have a more specialization because your clients that you're working with also become larger, and they want to make sure only the experts are in the team. They want to buy your IQ sometimes and maybe less practical skill because they think Tokimeki.
Welcome.
We're talking about software engineers, how to prepare for the job market in 2025. And I think that includes people who are currently unemployed, but also people who are also employed today. I think it would apply for both. And I want to talk about how different things would affect the junior developers and also the more senior experienced developers. But before we get started, just on the note that I'm a software engineer working at a tech company, a consulting company, headquartered in Seattle. And I've been in the industry for more than 10 years at this point, and in the same company for 14 years. So I've seen our company grow from just 5 people to 500 people. And I've seen like a different set of skills required to operate at a smaller business as well as larger business, or as a mid-sized business for my company. So first, I want to actually address this recent study that came out from Gartner. Gartner is a pretty reputable source of the information. They have this argument that AI will not replace software engineers.
Oh, okay. It's contrary to what some other companies believe in right now.
Yeah, some people, I think, especially the people who are not actual engineers, are maybe the vocal ones who say that AI will replace software engineers. And software engineers are actually glad that AI is helping them along.
Okay.
Yeah.
Contrary to AI stealing our jobs, actually, I think it's helpful.
Yep. At least in my circle, I think people are more excited and eager to use AI to the point that we actually have to figure out how to govern that, because AI engineers wants to use AI, but without governing your code, right, that you write, that's proprietary code, can leak out of your company's computer, laptop, cloud servers into, let's say, OpenAI or GitHub, and then your code is like forever maybe gone into someone else's server. And in fact, companies like Samsung has banned their software engineers from using AI because they uploaded a firmware code because they wanted to debug what's going on with the firmware.
Oh, but it ended up being firmware
That they uploaded the code to OpenAI. I think it was OpenAI to.
Oh, so then an external entity was able to see.
Yeah, not that they're seeing it, but it poses a risk.
Oh, got it.
Right? OpenAI is not gonna look at. There's probably terabytes, no, probably even petabytes of data being submitted, and they're not gonna have a human read one by one and see what Samsung employees are up to. Like, I don't think that's humanly even possible to do that. But the fact the code left their company's secure environment is more of the concern. It's like the compliance checklist, right? Whether something bad happened or not. Like, it's more the fact that things leaked.
Right.
So engineers are actually eager to use AI. And there are many reasons why it's driving the factor. For people who are seasoned, like senior engineers, who knows what they're doing, who have wrote their own code, they don't think they need much help. That makes sense. But reality of what happens in workplace is you're inheriting code that someone else wrote, someone who came before you, right? You might join a company, and the first thing you typically do is, okay, here are code base that we already have. You go in and figure out, and then make an update.
Really walking you through. You just have to kind of figure out, decrypt it yourself.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's really common in organizations, right? Because average turnover of employees are like what, 2-3 years in tech industry. So in that type of scenario, it really helps the engineers who are joining the new company to ask AI, hey, what's this code doing? I don't understand what's
Because
going
they
on.
can't ask like a predecessor.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And there's usually like some workarounds that people have to write. As you kind of stay in the industry for a long time, you realize that a lot of the code is not necessarily like a clean, standard, best practice code. The code has to do with workarounds of systems because when you write code, you don't just design code to work with your own environment. You work a code so that you can connect to data sources from other places. The other team in other department have wrote a system like a database system or cloud system where you have to integrate with, right? So it's not just you writing beautiful code. There are lots of code in organization that you have to work with. And you might realize, this team wrote this weird code and we're depending on that code to work. And for us to make it work, we have to do this weird workaround. Then you end up with like 100 different workarounds
Yeah,
that you have to
really
implement.
messy.
Yeah, it's really messy. It's kind of like when organization adopt like I don't know, Google Drive, OneDrive, SharePoint, Excel
And then you
spreadsheet,
can
Word
use
doc.
whatever to share
Yeah,
documents. It just
yeah,
becomes chaotic.
yeah, and then everyone starts to organize things in their own way. And so it's similar with the code because code is not just my own craft. It's organizations like collaborating with each other. That your code ends up being messy because of all the weird things that you have to deal with. So when you join a company and you inherit old code, and we call it legacy code, it's really hard to understand what's going on. So that's where AI has been really helpful. One, if you're writing code, you can ask AI to write comments for your code, explain what's going on, so that you don't have to spend time commenting on the code or explaining the code. And if you're new and if there's no comments or explanation, you can just ask AI, hey, I don't understand why this code is here. Then it will try to help you understand, oh, maybe because it's the workaround needed to do XYZ. If it's obvious from the code, AI can do that. The other thing we typically try to use AI for in my company is when you're downloading like open source library, you don't really know how they work or you don't really know if they're secure to use. So we can ask the question, hey, I'm trying to use this library. Is this secure? Can you check the code and see if there's nothing weird included in the code?
Yeah.
So AI engineers, engineers in general, are really eager to use AI. So we are not actually afraid of being replaced necessarily. But going back to the Gartner study, there's a study that shows AI would help senior engineers to do more because we understand the code, right? We understand the fundamentals. We can essentially give a good prompt to AI and say, okay, here are the code I'm trying to write, and here are the conditions and constraints that I want you to follow. And I want you to think about this pattern and not the other pattern.
Yes.
Right? Like I'm like an experienced person who can give training to a virtual assistant. But the same study also says it would hurt junior engineers.
Opposite side of it.
Opposite side of it, because junior engineers don't really have a fundamental knowledge or skill with the code.
Yes.
So they can be overly optimistic about the output and like, okay, I don't know what it's doing, but I'm just going to copy and paste it and then ship the code. And that inhibits learning. It's like giving students the test answers that they can just memorize for the next test. Like you actually didn't exercise your brain to learn and internalize why and how things work the way they are, right?
Right.
And then because they trust AI's output more than their own brain, they will just like paste the code that really isn't good. There are many ways to solve problems, and the best ways sometimes are to follow the coding standard of the project or to follow like I don't know, try to be as simple as possible and without being too complex. What happens with us junior engineers is that they just say, hey, I need help with this, and then just copy and paste. Whereas when a senior engineer do the same thing, they say, hey, I need help with this, no, I don't want to solve it that way because of these problems. Oh no, I don't like the pattern because it's anti-pattern for our coding standards. Seniors can instruct it multiple times and iterate to get to the result they're looking for that they know it's a good outcome. Whereas junior engineers, if you don't understand something, you can't really teach someone how to do something right.
Right. So
Right.
that's part of prompting, right? Like you need to understand how to teach almost something, explain something before you can prompt.
Yep.
So, what would your advice then be for a junior developer? Should they learn prompting and put that as a strength when they apply for jobs? Or how can they use AI to kind of boost their application for jobs? Because we know it's hard in the tech industry right now to stand out. I'm sure there are many developers, many more developers than there are jobs. But how can a junior developer use AI, or what other skills do they need with AI or besides AI to stand out?
Yeah, so if you're a junior developer entering into the market or switching job, I would say learn the fundamentals, nail the fundamentals, almost forget about AI because you're not going to be good enough compared to senior engineers using AI.
Using AI,
right?
yeah.
It's similar to the problem where we used to have, there's a website called Stack Overflow. It's like a forum where people post solutions to the coding problems. And even in that time, we had this problem where junior engineers would just copy and paste the answer that someone posted on the forum. They don't really know if it's a good code. It has boats, but having boat doesn't mean it's actually good code.
Yeah, especially for your company and application to your company.
And it might contain errors or vulnerability or security issues that might be part of it, right? So it used to be that people just copy solutions from Stack Overflow, and we knew that that's part of the reality of the work, that you skip some of the thinking and go straight to the best practice answer, because sometimes the crowdsourced knowledge is smarter than maybe you would be able to, but you still need to understand what's going on before you can copy and paste. To build a muscle, we still need to learn the fundamentals, and things, whether it's AI or Stack Overflow, things hasn't changed. You still need to understand fundamentals to be able to code effectively and to use AI effectively as engineer. So I would say if you're a junior engineer, forget about AI. Actually get good at understanding the fundamentals of coding. For senior engineers, it's the opposite way. If you're a senior engineer, you actually need to brush up on your AI skill and put pause on fundamentals, which you already probably know mostly how to do. I noticed a lot of senior engineers, some of them are like I don't trust AI, I can write better code. So they actually have more tendency to resist the AI, because if things have worked for me without AI, why should I learn to do like AI, right?
So it's almost like, in a way, fighting AI instead of finding out where it can help me make my job easier, instead of fighting it where you're most likely better in some aspects, but you could use it to also make you more efficient, take care of tasks that maybe you don't need to do. Yep.
There are a lot of tasks like reviewing code or understanding code. Sometimes I get stuck in this weird problem because it's not because I didn't understand the coding. It's because when you rely on other systems, other open source libraries that you didn't write or you're not managing, and then when they spit out an error, like error, something went wrong. Well, I didn't write the code, so I don't know what went wrong. So I still have to do internet search to say, why is something failing on AWS using this library, which neither I wrote or managed or own, right? It's when you use someone else's system and code, and when things fail, I don't understand. And usually there's somebody who experienced the same issue, and then they say, oh, yeah, you got to click on this check mark to make it work, or you got to do this weird thing that someone have found as a workaround, or maybe someone in the support has answered a question. And with AI now, without me Googling the solution for the solution on the keyword, AI can do the search for you. Like when I use ChatGPT, it can also do internet search to find the answer, possible answer. And the answer also can be tailored to my problem, because there are many answers floating online, right? And I can either read so many articles to piece together the answer myself, or AI can kind of summarize, like, based on what we found and based on your unique situation, here are possible things you should try. So whenever I get stuck with something, it's almost like having a coworker that I can talk to through my problem. Because sometimes just me trying to explain the problem and AI spitting out 10 possible ways to solve, and even if they're not exactly correct about something, it makes my brain spark and like, oh wait, I didn't think about that. Let me go a little deeper into that path, even though the solution isn't like a right, or solution is only like halfway from the AI. It still helps my brain move forward, because we tend to fall into this problem of we get stuck in the problem, and then we keep trying the same thing and same thing, and then our brain gets fogged in the afternoon, like, I don't know what I'm doing, like I need to take a break. And like when you take a nap or when you wake up next morning, that's when usually you suddenly have a
like the
solution
just
in
like,
your brain.
yeah,
And I had that moment many times pre AI. Now with the AI, when I'm stuck, like, okay, I should stop thinking, pause. I'm gonna ask AI what it thinks.
Oh, it almost like jump starts your brain.
Yep, yep.
Yeah.
And it often, unfortunately, it doesn't solve the problem all the way, but it gives me going enough, like, okay, I'm gonna try this, I'm gonna try that. Like, oh wait, something changed. Then I can use my brain again to navigate. So going back to junior versus senior, junior developers, they do need to really learn fundamentals, and that could be studying algorithm or studying how the programming language that you're using, let's say it's a JavaScript, how it really works. Or if you're using a framework like a React, you really want to understand how that works, or stay up to date with all the trends and changes happening in the ecosystem, and be really good at coding on your own. Because most likely, in my position, the senior position, to interview someone junior, I know they can use AI, so it's pointless for me to evaluate candidate based on how well they use AI, right? AI is going to get better, right? The human is not going to get better automatically. OpenAI in a year or two is going to release a model called O3, which is only available inside OpenAI, where they're not sharing access to public. But the model O3, they say they beat like 165th smartest engineer according to a test. We can link that in the article. I forgot which test it does, but there's like a international, like a coding challenge or competition.
And it ranks actual software engineers or coders.
165th.
Yeah.
That's pretty high in the world of million coders out there, right? So AI is gonna get really good, right?
It's almost like, didn't it beat like one of the top chess players?
Oh yeah.
Recently
Google
too,
Google
right?
beating chess players.
Yeah.
And I think even the shogi, the Chinese chess players, and many games, right?
Yeah.
So we know AI is going to be good. So there's no point for me to evaluate if the candidate knows how to do prompt engineering. Also, that's something like, if you spend 20 hours learning, like you can quickly pick it up. But fundamental knowledge and experience, you don't learn that in 20 hours, right? I want junior engineers to learn fundamentals and also work on project. If you don't have a job, spend a lot of time working on a project, because sometimes show me what you did is one way to evaluate. And
yeah, like your thought process, right, behind building or solving. What other resources would you recommend to make a junior developer stand out? Maybe one fresh out of college, for example.
If you're fresh out of college, I think maybe it's not the coding skill that will help you get there. It might be more networking aspect of it. But it just focusing on what the engineers can do, forget about social aspect. You can go for some certifications. You can work on project, work with people. I guess
there is a social aspect though to it, right? Yeah.
And when working with people, I would say like hackathon.
Yeah.
Or go help the nonprofit organizations build their website,
like an actual
or build
project.
software try to improve something, maybe you can go and improve how people do work by writing a little piece of code or even just integrating some system together for them. But hackathon is at least my favorite way to connect with the people, meet like-minded people. You often get exposed to like 20 to 200 people at the same time. Meetups are like maybe hit and miss. It's still a good way to meet people, especially if there's a after meetup events like getting a drink or something,
like happy hour
type stuff. Yeah, then it's good. But most of the meetup, you just go and attend and
There's
watch people present.
so many
and
other
go
people
home.
too looking
Yeah.
for jobs. I've noticed at meetups.
Yep.
Yeah.
And when even when you meet those people, it's really important to be able to talk about what you're working on and not just like, hey, I know how to code. Like, okay, but like I'm not gonna do a formal interview right then, right? It's more interesting for you to show me the software you wrote that
the
you
software
can
you
show
wrote
me.
and probably your passion or interest in it, right? That's probably really important too. You don't want to just jump straight into, okay, let's start talking about technical things and I don't even know you.
Yeah.
Right. I think you forget that. Sometimes we forget that we have to work with the people too. So you do
People
want
hire
a
people,
personality, you know, that you'll get along, like you're a good like culture fit.
Yeah.
Right?
Especially in the company I work for, we care a lot about the culture fit. Maybe it's different if you're in like San Francisco, Silicon Valley, maybe it's whoever is the smartest may go up the ladder.
Yeah.
But in a lot of maybe small to mid-sized businesses outside of like, you know, the FANG, you are likely going to have a little bit of interpersonal skills.
Yeah. I was going to ask, like, so you've hired software engineers before, or you've been part of the interview process, right? Of those that the company hired, what made them stand out? Like, what did they do or what did they say that made them stand out, especially if they're junior or even if you have a mid-level example?
Yeah, I'd say I've interviewed people from when the company I work for were just like less than 10 people to when we're like a 500 people. When we are small, so when you're applying for small companies, it's basically like all the practical skills that you bring.
You need to have, or the willingness to learn practical skills.
Because small business, they need to make money. They need to immediately get you onboarded to this project that the CEO just sold to, right? Like I did back, I did like WordPress marketing sites and I did Angular JS single page application. As time goes on, like I would adapt and learn what the market needs, right? So it's what clients are paying for, the skill set to make it work, especially by yourself. Because small companies don't have like many seniors or juniors that you can work with. Right. There's no way for you to like, oh, I only do this thing and I don't do other things. You actually need to do everything. You need to wear many hats. You need to deliver the project from start to finish. Like
okay,
coding
so you have to show that you have at least like you're like open to that and willing to get your hands like be hands-on even if you don't have that exact experience.
As you go apply for larger companies, I think it's more raw smartness. Like, are you really smart? And sometimes it's a specialization skill. So for example, if we really need mobile developers, we really hire someone who has experience in it.
Like the domain knowledge.
Yeah. And the more experience you have, the better, because if that's the first time the company is hiring like a mobile engineer job, they most likely want someone who's really experienced, who can oversee the junior developers.
Yeah.
So as you go up, I think more specialization in I know how to do this thing really well, like more narrow, what we call T-shape skill set, where like a T horizontal is like different skill sets, and then the vertical is like how deep you go. So in a startup, you want like maybe more shallow. Like you can do so many different things at a shallow level. Nobody's expecting like, you know, world class engineering working on client project in a smaller business. They want the speed and the budget, right?
Yeah.
As the company gets larger, you need to have a more specialization because your clients that you're working with also become larger, and they want to make sure only the experts are in the team. They don't just want a bunch of like shallow skilled people because they eventually gonna get stuck when
Oh,
the
there's
hard
like
problems comes in.
pigeonhole.
Pigeonhole. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll say if you can have both set of skills, have both shallower set of skills where you can do everything from start to finish, but also have the depth that you can go. Because right now it's really tough to get hired. And if you only know one thing, then you can't really apply for a small business. If you know a lot of things but not good at one thing, the big companies may not consider you because you're not
Right.
really
You
an
need to
expert.
be more expansive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you can choose and niche down, right, then maybe go with one way or another. But if you're just like desperate for like whatever I can get, then maybe try to do both. Have projects ready to show when we meet people, especially something that interesting and novel, but also be ready to like I don't know study like algorithms, which a lot of big companies tend to care, like more raw smartness. Like
Right.
they want to buy your IQ sometimes and maybe less practical skill because they think, well, if you're smart and have a high IQ, then we think you can figure out something. And in large companies, you also do much smaller scope of work. Like you might work on this one little module that users never see,
Oh, wow.
or work
Very
on
specialized.
something
Yeah.
that never gets deployed, work on something that gets like deleted right away.
Oh.
It's a little less like something you'd be proud of,
Mm-hmm.
but you know you get cushy job just focusing on your like smartness on it. But yeah, that would be the summary. If you're a junior developer, work on the fundamentals, do the hard things of working on a project, meet people through hackathon, go to meetups, and you know if you can afford to go to conference or even volunteer to get free tickets in, do all the things. And if you're a senior engineer, I'd say maybe open up your mind, understand what AI could do, not rejecting this new tech or feel like you're threatened by it.
Yeah. Maybe there are upskilling opportunities within your company too that you can
Yeah,
lean into
yeah.
to
If you
learn.
have,
Yeah.
yeah, if you're an engineering manager like me, then definitely spend time upskilling people's AI skills. But for junior developers, know that you don't want them to overly rely on the technology,
Yeah.
and make sure they understand fundamentals before they use it in day to day.
Cool. Well, if this was useful to you, if you're an aspiring or whether you're seasoned, let us know if you're seasoned how you're using AI to make your work easier, or if you're junior, maybe how to, if you want to know how to get into like the workforce with your skill set, let us know if we'd like an episode on that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Make sure like and comment, subscribe, hit the bell, and we'll see you again.